Hare Krishna. Some feedback here.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I think there's a mic issue.
Wait, stay with me. I don't know why this. Sorry, I don't know why it got this.
There's a lot of interference coming from our feet.
Yeah, I don't know why.
And from South East.
Yeah, it stopped now once I've muted everyone. So someone's got some interference coming back. Anyway, welcome everyone. I'm really pleased to be back. Hare Krishna. Really pleased to be back in your company, and I trust everyone's doing well.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Rajni Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Girish Prabhu, and Shabani Mataji. So, Hare Krishna, Mithali Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishangi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Kushu Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So I'm going to meet you all again. Okay, I've muted everyone again. So let's make a start. Today, Diva Gaurangi Mataji is going to she's going to recite. Because there's some feedback coming from someone's mic, I've muted everyone. So if anyone likes to join Diva Gaurangi Mataji, she'll read the Sanskrit. If anyone wants to read the English.
I can join, Prabhuji.
Rajri Mataji, all right. So I'll share my screen. And Diva Gaurangi Mataji, you ready?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, yes.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I'll put the screen. Today we will read till text number 22 because we're just carrying on, and then as we go for more verses, we'll carry on reading. So let me. All right, you can make a start, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, from verse 1 to 22?
1 to 22, yes.
Okay. My humble obeisances to all the devotees, and I seek blessings of His Grace Vrindavan Chandra Prabhuji and all the senior devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 10 Vibhuti Yoga, the opulence of the Absolute, Ataha Dashamo Adhyayah. 10.1 Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Bhuya Eva Mahabaho Shunu Me Paramam Vachaha Yatte Ham Priyamanaya Vakshyami Hitakamyaya.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna. Because you are my dear friend, for your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained."
10.2 Name viduha sura ganaha prabhavam namahashayah aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasaha.
Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages.
10.3 Yo mamajam anadim cha vitti loka maheshwaram asammudaha samartishu sarva papai pramuchyate.
He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme lord of all the worlds, he only undeluded among men is freed from all sins.
10.4 and 5 Buddhir gnanam asammoha Shama satyam damah shamaha Sukham dukham bhavo bhavo bhayam cha bhayameva cha. Ahimsa samata tushtis tapodanam yasho yashah bhavanti bhava bhutanam matta eva prithak vitaha.
Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy, all these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone.
10.6 महर्षयः सप्त पूर्वे चत्वारो मनवस्तथा मद्भावा मानसा जाता येषां लोक इमः प्रजः.
The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages, and the Manus, progenitors of mankind, come from me, born from my mind, and all these living beings populating the various planets descend from them.
10.7 एतां विभूतिं योगं च मम यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः सौविकल्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः.
One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt.
10.8 अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवो मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भाव समन्वितः.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
10.9 मच्चित्ता मद्गत प्राणा बोधयन्तः परस्परं कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यं तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च.
The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
10.10 तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन माम् उपयान्ति ते.
To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
10.11 तेषामेवानुकम्पार्थम् अहम् अज्ञानजं तमः नाश्यामि आत्मभावस्थो ज्ञानदीपेन भास्वता.
To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance.
10.12 अर्जुन उवाच परं ब्रह्म परं धाम पवित्रं परमं भवान् पुरुषं शाश्वतं दिव्यम् आदिदेवम् अजं विभुम्. आहुस्त्वां ऋषयः सर्वे देवर्षिर्नारदस्तथा असितो देवलो व्यासः स्वयं चैव ब्रवीसि मे.
Arjuna said, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest." All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala and Vyasa confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me.
10.14 सर्वमेतद्रतं मन्ये यन्मां वदसि केशव न हि ते भगवन् व्यक्तिं विदुर्देवान् दानवः.
O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality.
10.15 स्वयम् एवात्मनात्मानं वेत्ता त्वं पुरुषोत्तमा भूतभावन भूतेश देवदेव जगत्पते.
Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency. O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe.
10.16 वक्तुमर्हसि यशेषेण दिव्या हि आत्मविभूतयः याभिर्विभूतिभिर्लोकान् इमां त्वं व्याप्य तिष्ठसि.
Please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds.
10.17 कथं विद्याम् अहं योगीं त्वां सदा परिचिन्तयन् केषु केषु च भावेषु चिन्त्योऽसि भगवन्मया.
O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you, and how shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead?
10.18 विस्तरेणात्मनो योगं विभूतिं च जनार्दन भूयः कथय तृप्तिर्हि शण्वतो नास्ति मे मृतम्.
O Janardana, again please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satiated in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words.
10.19 श्रीभगवानुवाच हन्त ते कथयिष्यामि दिव्या हि आत्मविभूतयः प्रधानयतः कुरु श्रेष्ठा नास्ति अन्तो विस्तरस्य मे.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent. O Arjuna, for my opulence is limitless.
10.20 अहम् आत्मा गुडाकेश सर्वभूताशयस्थितः अहम् आदिश्च मध्यं च भूतानामन्त एव च.
I am the super soul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings.
10.21 आदित्यानामहं विष्णुर्ज्योतिषां रविरंशुमान् मारीचिर्मरुतामस्मि नक्षत्राणाम् अहं शशि.
Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant sun. Of the Maruts, I am Marichi. And among the stars, I am the moon.
10.22 वेदानां सामवेदोऽस्मि देवानामस्मि वासवः इन्द्रियाणां मनश्चास्मि भूतानामस्मि चेतना.
Of the Vedas, I am the Samveda. Of the demigods, I am Indra, the king of heaven. Of the senses, I am the mind. And in living beings, I am the living force, consciousness. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Divya Gaurangi Mataji and Rajshri Mataji. Wonderful reading and translation. So today we are going to do text number 22. Oh no, that's not the one. So, okay. All right, I think we should be okay now. So today we're doing text number 22, but before we discuss it, we'll say the Mangala Charanam prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Malitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prasthadeshatharini. So this chapter is entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. And the majority of this chapter, from text number 19 to 42, Krishna describes his opulences. And he says he's just describing a fraction of these opulences. And because it's not possible to describe every of his opulences because they are unlimited. So these last few verses, we started to read about the various opulences of Krishna. And today we continue. Vedanam sama vedosmi devanam asmi vasavaha indriyanam manaschasmi bhutanam asmi chetana. Of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. Of the demigods, I am Indra, the king of heaven. Of the senses, I am the mind. And in living beings, I am the living force, consciousness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The difference between matter and spirit is that matter has no consciousness like the living entity. Therefore, this consciousness is supreme and eternal. Consciousness cannot be produced by a combination of matter. So very short purport. We'll discuss some of the important aspects of this verse, and then we can share. So Krishna says, of the Vedas, he is the Samaveda. So we know that the Vedic scriptures originates with what is called the Shruti, the Vedas. And of the Vedas, there's four: the Rig, the Yajur, the Sama Veda, and the Atharva Veda. And we know that each of the Vedas are divided into sections: the Samhitas, the Brahmanas, and the Aranyaks, also known as the Upanishad. And then even within the Vedas, you have Vedang and Upaveda. The Vedang means, astrology, Vyakaran, Jyotish, and various sutras. And then we have the Upved, made up of Dhanurveda, like Ayurvedic science, and so many other sciences, architecture, military, and so on. But the important aspect of the Vedas is the philosophical aspect. And that which explains the Vedas is called Smritis. Smritis. And among the Vedas, standing out, very as much out as the from the Vedas, among the Puranas is the Bhagavatam. Because Vedavyas is the compiler of the Vedas. He condensed the Vedas, because originally the Vedas was not written, it was spoken only. So there came a point in time as the human memory decreased for the Vedas to be written down. And the entire Vedas had to be remembered. But as time progressed, it became more difficult for people to understand the Vedas. So what Vyasadeva did, he condensed the main parts of the Vedas in what is called sutras. Sutras are very condensed verses. So he took the entire Vedas and he condensed them in sutras, and he called it the Vedanta Sutra. And the natural commentary of the Vedanta Sutras is Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we see the Gita is sitting in a very special category of Vedic literature, because ultimately Vedic truth or absolute truth can only come from the absolute source, who is Krishna. So ultimately Vedas come from Krishna. So although the Gita sits as part of the Mahabharata, which is considered to be Smriti, the Gita sits in its own categories because it's directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in effect, it's not Smriti, but it's Shruti, because the source of the Vedas is speaking the Gita. So therefore, the Gita stands out very special. And then we have the Itihasas, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So in this chapter here, Krishna is describing how we can identify him in physical things. So he's saying of the Vedas is the Samveda. Now this actually raised a question in my mind. Why does the Samveda? We all know that the Rig Veda is the original Veda, and it is the most comprehensive of all the Vedas. So why? Because Krishna in each of these physical aspects, he picks out the best or the highest or the most prominent, and he says, I am that, just so that we can understand Krishna's opulences and his potency. So I was very intrigued to know, why did Krishna demarcate in this verse that of all the Vedas is the Samaveda. But before I delve into that, I'd just like to find out from the listeners today whether any of you all have any views or understanding or knowledge of why Krishna says Samaveda.
Does it contain songs of Krishna, some sort of songs in there? Because they all have unique characteristics, don't they?
Yes. So what were you saying, Bharati Mataji?
Like Yurveda is the prose and the Rig is metric hymns and things. The Samaveda contains songs?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what I thought as well. It contains song. And it contains Gayatri as well. So Krishna says it's Gayatri as well.
Yes.
And Veda contains incantation or something like that.
Yes. Yes. So Krishna says of demigods is Indra, of consciousness living beings. So of the four Vedas, the Rig Veda is the oldest, and it's composed of 10,552 mantras. Of the other Vedas, the Yajur is the smallest, and the Sama Veda is 1,875 Vedas. Sama means, it comes from the word Saman, which means melody, and obviously Veda means knowledge. And it is the third of the four Vedas, but it is said it ranks next in sanctity and liturgical importance to the Rig Veda. It consists of a collection of samhitas or hymns, portions of hymns and detached verses. But all are taken from the Sakala Saka of the Rig Veda. This may not mean much to you. I also tried to do some research, and then there's this big scholar, some of you may have heard of him, Ralph T.H. Griffith, who was around 1895. He did a translation of the Samaveda, and he had something interesting to say about the Samaveda. He said the collection is made up of hymns, portions of hymns and detached verses, taken mainly from the Rig Veda, transposed and rearranged without reference to the original order, to suit the religious ceremonies in which they were employed. Actually, 75% of the Samaveda actually comes from the Rig Veda, which is interesting. In these compiled hymns, there are frequent variations of more or less importance from the text of the Rig Veda, as we now possess it, with which variations, although in some cases they are apparently explanatory, seem in others to be older and more original than the readings of the Rig Veda. So he says something interesting. The way they are written and the way they are presented, they seem more older and original than the readings of the Rig Veda. In singing, the verses are still further altered by prolongation, repetition and insertion of syllables, and various modulations, rests, and other modifications prescribed for the guidance of the officiating priests in the ganas or songbooks. So the Samaveda is considered to be very, very special in the way it is presented. It is presented in the forms of hymns, and the syllables and the modulations and the rest, the pauses, they are very, very unique. And in terms of the chanting of the mantras, because of their presentation, they are more accessible, they are easy, and they are more pleasurable in their chanting. So as Bhagavati Mataji said, the Samaveda, he stands out just for the way it is presented. And it would seem from the way Krishna has spoken that he appreciates the Samaveda because of its hymns, the way it's presented. Therefore, he says, of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. Krishna also says that of demigods, he is Indra. I had some translations of the Vedas, and I was just looking through it, just out of curiosity to see what are the contents of the Vedas. And I was surprised when I read the Samaveda translation, how much of the Samaveda actually glorifies Lord Indra. Him being the king of the demigods, the chief demigod. He's glorified quite extensively in the Vedic literatures. And in particular, he is glorified for the killing of the demon Vritrasura. Because the Vedas presents one of its main stories is the killing of Vritrasura. But we all know from the Bhagavatam that although Indra is glorified in the Vedas, the Bhagavatam presents him very, very differently when he was fighting Vritrasura. But I described that previously, and I won't go into it. But essentially, in the Bhagavatam, Vritrasura becomes the hero, and Indra is the person who is lesser known. Then Krishna says that in all living beings, he is the living force, consciousness. It doesn't mean that Krishna is the soul, but if in the whole body, as Prabhupada says, if there was no soul, there would be no consciousness. So consciousness is the symptom of the soul. So I just wanted to talk a bit more about consciousness and how the Vedas presents consciousness, because in the translation you can see Krishna uses the word ch10, meaning consciousness, that he's the consciousness in the living entities. So the Vedas say that there are 5 types of consciousness. The first type of consciousness is called Shrankan consciousness, Sankochita Chetana. The second type of consciousness is called covered consciousness, Achadadita Chetana. The third type of consciousness is called budding consciousness, Mukulita Chetana. The fourth type of consciousness is called blooming consciousness, Vikachita Chetana. And the last one is called fully blossomed consciousness, is Purna Vikachita Chetana. It is considered that the perfection of life, of human life, if one can open one's consciousness to the fully blossomed stage of consciousness. And one who uses the human form of life to fully bloom his consciousness or her consciousness, that person is considered to have perfected the human form of life. So we'll just discuss a little bit more about these various types of consciousness because they are quite interesting and they are relevant too. So the first type of consciousness, called covered consciousness, Achadita Chetana. And this essentially is trees, grass, stones, rocks, and mountains. We may not think so, but the Vedas actually, strangely enough, they say that even rocks and mountains have consciousness. Therefore, in the Vedic literature, sometimes we read about various personalities like the mountains, the Himalayas, mountains personified. who are exhibiting certain consciousness. But generally, it is said that the consciousness in trees and grass and the inert living entities, their consciousness is very, very covered over. And their consciousness is almost considered to be non-existent or in a deep sleeping state. Because in that state, the living entity has completely forgotten their constitutional position, has no recollection of who they are and who Krishna is. And it is explained that through the 6 types of transformations, birth, growth, diminution, production of byproducts, and death, there is some slight experience of consciousness. But it is more or less inert. And in the Puranas and the other Vedic literatures, we read of living entities like the Ahalya in the Ramayana, the Yamal Arjuna trees in Krishna's pastimes, and Saptatala in the Vedic literatures. So very low consciousness. In some point of our previous lives, we have been in this stage also. We've been in this stage. The next type of consciousness is called shrunken consciousness, Sankochita Chetana. And this is animals, birds, reptiles, aquatics like fish, insects. They're all shrunken consciousness. That means their consciousness is not of a level that they can perceive of who they really are. And they act according to their desires. Eat, sleep, mate, defend. That is their life. Eat, sleep, mate, defend. And that's about what they know. And although some of them may show some signs of intelligence, generally that intelligence relates to the 4 propensities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's the story of Jad that took the form of a deer. Now, ordinarily, in the form of a deer, one does not, understand the subtleties of life, and one is just focused on eating, sleeping, and mating and defending. But in the form of Jad Krishna made an exception because he was a devotee in his previous life. And he had some remembrance in his last life. And then we come to the stage of budding, blooming, and blossomed consciousness. Mukhalita, Vikachita, and Purna Vikachita. So even in human beings, we see, like today, 90% of the human beings, what is their focus? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. That's what their consciousness is absorbed in. How to eat better, how to sleep more comfortably, how to defend in a more sophisticated way, and how to mate in a sophisticated way. So such living beings, they are considered to be budding consciousness because the consciousness in the human body is starting to awaken. But if they keep it at the level of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, it is considered to be simply a waste of time. As Prabhupada would say, polished animals. Prabhupada says the animals are running on 4 legs and the human being is moving on 4 wheels. Not much difference. And unfortunately, most unfortunately, after such a long time, living entities, they get this human form of life. It's like a gift. It's like a key to someone who's been trapped in a maximum security prison, and someone giving them the key to get out. But they don't use it. They simply discard it. That is the big tragedy of modern civilization. Vedic civilization was geared up from the very beginning, not only from childhood, while the child was even within the womb, not even within the womb, even before the child is conceived. Vedic culture was such that everything was done that if the child was born, will be maximum opportunity and utilization for elevation of Krishna consciousness, last birth. So the second, the fourth aspect is called blooming consciousness, vikachita. And that refers to those fortunate souls who have taken to spiritual life. And the Acharya specifically explained that to be those who follow the process of sadhana bhakti. Now, most of us in today's attendance are most fortunate because we have come to the stage of blooming consciousness after many, many, many lifetimes. We've come into a genuine spiritual path. And by the process of sadhana, our consciousness is starting to bloom. And fully blossomed consciousness, that is the devotee who has reached the stage of bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti is the stage where Srila Rupa Goswami translated as ecstatic devotional service. It comes to the stage where the devotee is completely out of the bodily concept of life, completely engaged in the service of Krishna, and completely absorbed in the service of Krishna. And Srila Rupa Goswami describes the symptoms of such a person. If you permit me, I will quickly read to you the symptoms he describes. Such a person in blooming consciousness, this is what their symptoms are. They are always anxious to utilize all their time in the devotional service to the Lord. They never like to be idle, and they want to serve the Lord 24 hours a day. Secondly is, they are reserved, meaning they are very calm, very poised, and they are very perseverant. Nothing can put them off service to Krishna. The next quality is detached from all material attraction. At this stage, material attraction or sense gratification is completely out of the radar. A desire for liberation, completely off the radar. He does not long for any material respect in return for his activities. Full humility. Has no inclination or desire to be praised. The next one, always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. 6, is always eager to serve the Lord faithfully. 7, he is very attached to chanting the holy names of Krishna. 8, he is always eager to describe the qualities of the Lord. And 9, he is very pleased to live in a holy place like Mathura, Vrindavan, Dwaraka, or in some cases a temple. So this is an example or a description of one whose consciousness is fully blossomed. So dear devotees, this is the opportunity that comes for us in the human form of life. To become fully blossomed, and when one becomes fully blossomed, all the good qualities are there in the devotee. Recently, we have been hearing about the passing away of Bhakti Swami Maharaj. And he is one fortunate soul has blossomed. And the reason he has blossomed, I will talk about just now. And Srila Prabhupada showed even a higher stage of Krishna consciousness. And I'll talk a bit more about that. So we have examples, devotees, of people who walked on this earth. And it's only the devotees of the Lord who are able to fully blossom their consciousness, because it's only by the mercy of Krishna can that consciousness fully open up. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains about how one comes to the fully blossomed consciousness. And he gives a very, very interesting analysis. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna has sent the jiva embodied in a human body, which is the greatest body among the Lord's creations, to the material world, totally equipped to attain a blossom Purna Vikachita state of consciousness. He says everyone who's got a human form of life, they are fully equipped to become fully blossomed in consciousness. But then again, he says something very interesting. He says, however, it is impossible for a jiva to attain this blossom state of consciousness through its individual effort. So why is it difficult? Just like Prahlad Maharaj says. And therefore he says, therefore a human being must first take shelter of the lotus feet of a genuine spiritual master, Guru Padashraya. Prahlad Maharaj was talking to his father, Hiranyakashipu. And he said, Hiranyakashipu was asking him, how did you come to this state of consciousness? And Prahlad said, not by one's own efforts, neither by the efforts of others, neither by the combined efforts of oneself or others, can one come to the stage of perfected consciousness. And he said, only by taking the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee of the Lord can one come to the perfected stage of consciousness. So this is what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Although we have that potentiality, we cannot reach or realize that potentiality by our own efforts. Only by taking shelter of the lotus feet of a genuine spiritual master, serving that spiritual master with one's life and soul. By the mercy of that spiritual master, one gets blessed. And with that blessing, one is able to fully bloom one's consciousness. Therefore, in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami, he lists 64 items of sadhana bhakti, of regulative devotional service. But he says, out of those 64, 3 are a prerequisite. One cannot progress further. And those first 3 is to take shelter of a spiritual master, to serve the spiritual master, and to take initiation from the spiritual master. And of the 64, he says 5 are particularly most potent. Chanting the holy name, associating with devotees, residing in a holy place, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and worshipping the deity. So one gets the spiritual master, then one gets the principles and one follows it, especially these 5 very potent items. Association with devotees, chanting the holy name, worshipping the deity, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and residing in a holy place. We can fully bloom our consciousness. That is our opportunity, and that is the great gift we have received from Srila Prabhupada. This great, great gift. We've been here for millions of millions, countless lifetimes. But that gift has come to us through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So I would encourage, yesterday, I think Divyanand Prabhu spoke about it and he sent a message. we would like to honor and worship and glorify Srila Prabhupada. Today is the last day to submit our offerings to Srila Prabhupada. So I encourage all of the devotees to please write your offerings. And secondly, I was on the call today and I noticed many of y'all were on this call from the ISKCON Silicon Valley. That's the other secret that Srila Prabhupada has given us, how to please him, how to attract the mercy and how to bloom our consciousness. Two things is to practice sadhana and to preach Krishna consciousness. Those two things, if we do under the direction of Srila Prabhupada and his representatives, that will enable us to reach the full success of the human form of life. So next week, I know many of you are starting to become involved in the preaching mission of Srila Prabhupada. It is a wonderful opportunity because it is a wonderful opportunity to really surrender and to put our lives in some situation where we extend ourselves for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna, Guru and Gauranga. So next week, Saturday, we are going to get together to reach out again via the lockdown to see how we can give Krishna consciousness to other people. I would encourage all of you all to join that initiative, and where we remotely, via telephone and other means, reach out to people to introduce them to Krishna consciousness. There are more details will be forthcoming this week. So please become involved in that and see in whatever other respects in your life you can support the Krishna consciousness movement, spreading Krishna consciousness. We have various resources. We have our life. You can't give all your life. Give your time. If you can't give your time, give some of your resources to spread this mission of Krishna consciousness. I'll stop here, dear devotees, and I'll take any questions or comments that you may have or reflections.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you for the wonderful class. And my humble obeisances to you and to all the devotees listening. My question is this. You mentioned earlier on about the trees having a lower form of existence or life, I think you said. So if there is, let's say I create a scenario for you, I'd like to know your response, please. If there is a very big tree in a garden, for example, and you get someone to come and, you know, lower the tree, cut off some branches, would one get karma, bad karma, for having the tree reduced in height, for example?
I don't know about pruning the tree, because sometimes when we get pruned, there is some relief. Just like when we worship Tulsi Devi, we prune Tulsi Devi, we pluck the leaves from the top, the buds, because they take some energy and then she grows more luxuriantly sidewards. So sometimes pruning, and just like the rose tree plants and other flowering plants, if you prune them, they grow more luxuriantly, better, they bloom. So certainly, I mean, pruning, there's my understanding, there's not a reaction, there's not harm to the tree. But certainly when we cut down trees and we chopped, Srila Prabhupada was very upset when he saw devotees chopping down trees unnecessarily. And once one devotee had done that, there was a tree in front of one of the temples and he had chopped it. And Prabhupada was so upset with the devotee, saying, why did you have to do it? Was it necessary you do that? Because although their consciousness is very low, still there is some difficulty we are causing them.
So you won't create any bad karma for yourself, but I mean, there is a necessity, for example, to lower
Yes.
or to prune the
Yes.
tree.
Yes.
Not doing it deliberately, but
No.
there's always the fear at the back of one's mind that you might have A, caused some pain to the tree, B, you are creating bad karma for yourself.
I don't think we have to worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry. Actually, Prabhupada said, Mataji, in everything we do, there is some accumulation of sin. Just as we are walking and we're talking, we're breathing, we are just doing so much of things. But if your life is dedicated to Krishna, and whatever you do, you see it as service to Krishna, as far as possible. That's the only way you can live. But a devotee does not get too much caught up in the intricacies of karma.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for that answer. And just finally, can I ask you a quick question, please?
Sure.
You mentioned about living in a holy place
Yes.
as one of the 5 factors.
Yes.
To blossom or to bloom, I think you mentioned.
Yes.
What if you you meet 4 of the criteria, but you're not, in my case, I'm not living in a holy place. So what happens then? Prabhupada
gave a very interesting explanation of that sadhana activity of living in a holy place. Prabhupada says, wherever there is a temple, wherever Krishna's name is constantly being chanted, that's a holy place. And Prabhupada says, if a devotee is worshipping the Lord at home, if the devotee is chanting the holy name of the Lord in his house, that is a holy place.
I see.
So you're residing in a holy place if you're doing that.
I see. So you create the holy place by your deity worship at home.
Yes.
I see. Okay, because what I was thinking was, you know, being in Vrindavan or in Mayapur, places like that, physically being in a holy place.
Yeah. Physically can be there, but also Prabhupada said, mentally we can be in Vrindavan by our consciousness. We may not be living in Vrindavan, but if our mind is always meditating on Krishna, his devotees, on Vrindavan, Prabhupada says that person is already living in Vrindavan. Just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was telling, I think it was Sanatan Goswami, one of his disciples, he said, wherever you go, it's a holy place. So wherever the great devotees of the Lord go, that becomes a sanctified place. Just like Bhaktivedanta Manor, yes, we have the deities there, but also because Prabhupada put his feet there, because so many Vaishnavas are putting their feet, it's very sanctified, very holy place.
And if you don't have deities at home, but you have pictures of deities,
that is same.
The same.
Yeah,
all right. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your answers. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Jolly Mataji.
I've always been curious about, they say some trees stand for 1,000 years or so. I was wondering what could be their karma action to actually invite that kind of length of time. I know some of the trees are beautiful and they're strong and when I hug a tree, you feel the strength. But I just wondered what they could have done to invite that kind of length of existence.
Well, we know from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the story of Nalakuvara and Manigriva. They were in this lake, naked, sporting with some other woman naked. Narad Muni came there, and they didn't take heed of him. They carried on sporting naked. And Narad Muni cursed them that in the next lifetime they become trees because they like to stand naked, be naked so much. But that came with a hidden blessing. When a great saintly person curses, there's also a hidden blessing. And the hidden blessings is that they took birth as trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. And eventually Krishna, by breaking the twin Arjuna trees, he gave them full blessings and mercy. But generally, if one is very sinful, very, very sinful, then one takes birth in such species of life.
Hare Krishna, thank you for that.
Hare Krishna.
It's clarified my thoughts. Thank you, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Saroj Mataji.
Yeah. Just going on from what Jolie just said.
Yes.
Why, if the trees and the mountains are so fallen, when we go walking into the forest or the mountains, we feel so much peace. And he says healing takes place there as well. So people who are not well, especially mentally, if they go walking into the forest or the mountains, they feel so much better.
Yes, nature, and Prabhupada has always recommended that one lives, it's just like said, living in the city is in the mode of passion or ignorance. Living in the forest is in the mode of goodness. So I think what you're asking is, how is it if they are so fallen, it is considered to be in the mode of goodness?
Yes.
Because the trees, in one sense, in that stage of life, although because of sinful activity they're there, but they're not committing any sin, aren't they? The trees.
No.
In fact, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnena. That one should be as tolerant as a tree. And the tree, although one may not treat it very well, it still serves. It gives fruit, it gives shade, it gives leaves, medicinal leaves. So although in one sense, they're not committing any sin.
Okay.
And in one sense, they carry on serving. So in that sense, they are like, they create a mode of goodness just by the species.
Okay. Yeah. It's just that I live near mountains and forests, and that's my place to go. So I'm just feeling it, saying, like, how can they be so? They can be so fallen.
You feel close to trees, isn't it?
Yes.
Actually, when Prabhupada was in England, in London, in the 1960s, he stayed in the estate of John Lennon, Tittenhurst, and every morning, Prabhupada would take a walk through the woods. So there came a time where Prabhupada was going to leave. And as he was about to leave, he asked the devotees to stop the car.
Okay, yeah.
And he said, I have to say goodbye to some friends.
Okay.
And he walked over to some of the trees and he had some interaction with them.
Wow.
And then he jumped in his car. And then the next day there was a terrible storm and lightning struck all of those trees and they died.
Oh no.
Prabhupada liberated them.
So he blessed them.
He blessed them. They blessed them to come out of the body of trees.
Wow. Amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that was such an amazing pastime of Prabhupada.
Yeah.
I really like that story.
Thank you so much. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare
Krishna. Anyone else before we stop?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
I just wanted to know how those in the lower mode of life, example, the trees, the birds, excuse me, animals in general, how do they get elevated then?
That's such a nice question. It's a question that devotee normally asks, and it shows your compassion in your heart, Mataji. That's wonderful. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Haridas Thakur that's very same question. He says, Haridas, the human beings are all benefited by the chanting of the holy name. Simply by chanting the holy name once, they become freed from so much of sin, and they're able to progress in the human form of life. But what about the trees? What about the animals? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked this question to Haridas. And Haridas Thakur said, my Lord, please don't worry. Whenever the Harinam Sankirtan is going on, the trees and the animals also hear it. And whoever hears the holy name of Krishna, they become benefited. And they get the human form of life next. Therefore, it is so important, Prabhupada stressed, Harinam Sankirtan. Devotees go out every town and village, every place of the earth, chant the holy names of Krishna. So every living entity can be benefited. So that's
really useful.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Also, Prabhuji, you know, like the sort of food you would offer. So say, for example, the birds,
yes.
excuse me, offering them seeds or bread or something like that. Would it be useful to sort of, you know, ask Krishna to bless that so that the birds can benefit from it?
Oh, yes, yes. Prabhupada said that every time you offer a flower to Krishna, that plant to produce that flower gets so much benefit from Krishna. Every time you offer some bhog to Krishna, whatever bhog you give, that plant is being benefited. Whatever you go and you see devotees, they offer anything, they offer grains or rice, they give to the birds, and the birds eat the prashadam. The other living entities eat prashadam. They all become benefited. They all become benefited. So it's very nice if you feed birds and animals prashadam also. And you offer from the trees and the plants, you offer those items to Krishna. All the living entities become benefited.
Super. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So
Can you please explain that bit again about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asking a question when he knew the answer, because he's God, isn't he?
Yes, he's God. He knows everything, but sometimes like Krishna, you know, he becomes bold.
Playful.
He becomes bolded. He allows himself to be covered by his own yoga maya. And he's performing Leela,
Sweet.
Okay, so Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu was asked to share the link to submit the offering. It's there on the forum. I'll also set it again in the WhatsApp group. You can see there how to submit your offering today. Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu will do that. Last comment from Emma Mataji regarding consciousness of a holy place. The Lord says, I live where my devotees glorify me. Yes. Thank you, Emma Mataji. Wherever Krishna is being glorified, that's a holy place. So thank you very much, everyone. It's just after 1:45. Have a good Sunday. Write your offerings to Srila Prabhupada. Become engaged in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and perfect your life through this beautiful process of Krishna consciousness given by Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Wonderful class.
Thank you.
Krishna.